Hi and welcome to CSM Tac. I'm Peter Briggs, and today we're going to have a little chat about judgemental training, something the British Army does under Card Alpha, making soldiers understand the decisions they have to make on the battlefield and in peacetime. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through the process that soldiers have to undertake, and then I'm going to show you some videos that might challenge your perspective and ask you some questions at the conclusion for you to make your decisions. Enjoy. On many occasions, especially in peacetime, service personnel will simply be using force in accordance with their inherent right to self-defense under the same law that applies to all civilians. On such occasions, service personnel will be issued with guidance cards on the use of force which detail the circumstances under which they may legally use force under national law in self-defense. Everyone in the armed forces must be aware of Card Alpha, the guidance for opening fire for service personnel authorised to carry arms and ammunition whilst on duty. This applies whether you are on duty in the UK or globally on operations other than war, or on board Royal Navy ships and submarines worldwide. Guidelines reflect the law under which soldiers operate generally during periods of peacetime. Threats to security, no matter where they come from, are against the civil law, and this is the law in which the soldiers operate. Today in peacetime in the UK and on peacetime operations, threats to security are diverse and unpredictable. Attackers may be armed or appear to be unarmed, or you may have to face the threat of a suicide bomber. It is important that you understand and can apply your guidance for opening fire no matter from where or from whom the threat comes. Card Alpha guidance is based on our domestic criminal law. This is the law under which you operate whether in the UK in peacetime or on peacetime support operations. Card Alpha contains guidance for opening fire for service personnel authorised to carry arms and ammunition whilst on duty. It is this card that we will focus on during this video. All UK military personnel have the inherent right to self-defence, and it is therefore important that from the outset that you understand that Card Alpha simply describes this inherent right to self-defence. This right is recognised by the law and will be applied to you if brought before a UK military or civilian court. The basic principle of self-defence is that any person may use such force as is reasonable in the circumstances as he or she believes it to be in their defence or somebody else's. This means that it is important, having formed an honest belief of the situation, that the action that you then take must be seen as reasonable. This right includes the use of force to prevent an imminent attack. Remember, to be reasonable, the force used must be necessary and proportionate, and it must be the minimum amount required to remove the threat. Let's go through the card line by line to make sure that you fully understand every one of the 6 paragraphs, because the decision that you make simply has to be the right one every single time. General guidance. The ROE, or the rules of engagement, do not affect the general right to self-defence or the right to act in defence of others. However, in all situations you are to use the minimum amount of force. Firearms must only be used as a last resort. You will note that this last line is in bold and in capitals. It is done to emphasise the point that you must not shoot unless your life or someone else's life is in danger and there is no other way to prevent that danger. The remainder of this paragraph reminds us that weapons should be carried and maintained in accordance with their SOPs. The location of personal weapons must be known at all times, and weapons should not be left unattended. All weapons will be held on a safety catch unless explicitly instructed. Paragraph 2 details the challenge. It states, when preparing to open fire, you must issue a verbal challenge unless you're being confronted by armed or uniformed enemy personnel, or to do so would endanger you, your unit, or any other friendly forces. If you are to challenge, you are to shout, British Army, or Navy, or Air Force, stop or I'll fire, or words to that effect. It is important to get across the intent of the challenge and not necessarily the exact words, and your posture and tone when issuing the challenge will carry as much authority as the words themselves. Even if the intruder only speaks a foreign language, the action of cocking a weapon system will automatically reinforce the message. You may use lethal force in order to prevent injury to friendly forces carrying out their lawful duties. And when you open fire, you are to seek whenever possible to positively identify your target and use the minimum amount of force necessary to engage that target and ensure that the use of suppressive fires is proportionate to the threat environment. Whenever possible, you should avoid collateral damage to property, save when such damage is necessary to the successful achievement of a lawful military objective. So, as a reminder, you may only fire if there is a danger to your life or another human life, and that there is no other way to prevent that danger. A challenge must always be given unless to do so would increase the risk of death or grave injury to another person or yourself other than the attacker and the attackers, or that you are under armed attack already. If you have to open fire, then you to only fire the minimum amount of aimed shots necessary. Make sure you identify your target, and whilst taking all reasonable precautions, do not injure anyone other than your target. You are not allowed to engage a target for the protection of property. We'll now watch a clip. Make an assessment on what you would do at each stage and understand the rules of engagement. Your decisions will be challenged at the conclusion.
Yeah. Excuse me, sir, can I ask what you're doing, please? Stop! Stop! Stop that packet! Everyone out of the building! British Army, stop that fire!
So let's start with asking question number 1. Could the guard have opened fire against the intruder on first seeing him? A. Yes, the intruder has no right to be there. B. Yes, the intruder was about to commit an act likely to endanger human life. C. Yes, the intruder was acting very suspiciously. Or D. No, unless the guard believed that the intruder was about to commit an act likely to endanger human life and there was no other way to stop the threat. The answer in this case is D. In this case, it's difficult to see why a guard would think that this. There is nothing about the suspect to suggest he's posed an imminent threat to life, even if he was acting suspiciously and may not have had the right to be there. Question number 2. Was the guard right to open fire at the intruder as he ran away? A. Yes, because the intruder had not stopped when challenged. B. Yes, shooting the intruder was reasonable use of force in the circumstances. C. No, it was too dark to fire an aimed shot. Or D. Yes, if the soldier believed the intruder was about to detonate a bomb, endangering life, and that there was no other way to prevent the danger. This answer is D. The guard's actions would have been reasonable if he could prove that he honestly believed that the intruder was about to endanger life by detonating a bomb and that there was no other way to prevent that danger. The intruder had dropped a package and had not stopped after being challenged. The intruder could have been about to detonate that package. If the guard believed that he was, and it would have been reasonable for him to believe that, then lethal force would have been required. It's clearly not too dark for an aimed shot. Question number 3. If the guard knew that the accommodation block was empty and that the other guard had left the building, would he still have been right to shoot the intruder? A. Yes, you can open fire to protect property. B. Yes, the intruder was still getting away. C. No, the lethal force must only be used to protect human life. Or D. No, because the other guard was not wearing the correct ear defence. In this case, the answer is C. It would not have been lawful for the guard to have used lethal force to protect an empty accommodation block. You can only use force when human life is endangered, in line with the caveats of Card Alpha. The threat to the other guard's hearing was not a threat to life. And the last question for this video: does Card Alpha restrict you from doing what is necessary to protect yourself and or others? A. Yes. You cannot protect property when you have to follow the rules. B. Yes, the rules are about protecting the bad guys. C. No, you have the right to self-defense, to protect yourself, and the right to protect others. Or D. Yes, if you're in the military, you should be able to use lethal force whenever you want. Not surprisingly, this answer is C. The guidance in Card Alpha allows you to use lethal force to protect any human life. It's not there to embolden you to be able to kill or shoot anybody you wish, and it's not there to protect property.
Last night's work do was good.
Yeah, it's alright, isn't it?
What the hell are they doing? Army! Help! Hello Zero, this is 2-4 Bravo. We have 3 times intruders in one side road table, leaving through North Gate, over.
Question 5. Could the guard have opened fire when the intruders had the boxes of ammunition in their hands? A. Yes. The guard needed to stop the ammunition from being stolen. B. Yes. The ammunition could have been used to kill somebody, so that the guard had to stop them from being stolen. C. No. They should have waited until the intruders had put the boxes down. D. No, there was no imminent threat to human life by the intruders by holding the ammunition boxes. The answer to this question is D. Lethal force can only be used to protect life, not property. Given that there was no imminent threat to human life, the rule is the guard must use no more force than absolutely necessary. This means that the guard was right to consider other options to stop the intruders, even if this risked their escape. Question number 6. Could the guard have fired at the moving vehicle? A. No. There was no imminent threat to human life. B. Yes. They could have fired at the tyres and stopped the intruders from escaping. C. Yes. The suspects had clearly been stealing and needed to be stopped. Or D. Yes, as long as they fired at the front of the vehicle and not on the rear. For question number 6, the answer is A. At this point in time, there is no obvious reason for the guards to believe that the intruders were about to commit an act likely to endanger life. Whether or not they were armed, the act of theft itself cannot be justified for lethal force. Question 7. Which of the following, if any, are true? A. You may use lethal force to protect property. B. You may use lethal force to protect valuable property. C. Under Card Alpha, you must not use lethal force other than in the protection of human life. D. You may use lethal force to protect your own property. The answer to this question is C. Lethal force may not be used to prevent damage to property. And our last question for today's video is, could the guard have opened fire against the intruders if they'd been stealing rifles with the ammunition? A. Yes, to stop them from shooting other people. B. No, you cannot open fire to protect property. C. Yes, stealing rifles is a very serious offence. D. Yes, if the guard believed the intruders were about to fire at them with those weapons and there was no other way to stop them. The answer in this case is D. The guards could have opened fire if they believed that the intruders were about to open fire on someone. They could not have opened fire to prevent them from endangering somebody else's life in some point in the future, or to protect property, or because it was a serious offence. Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed making some decisions. I hope you've had a bit more clarity about the decision-making process that some of the soldiers have to do in the British Army. Please click and like and subscribe if possible. and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.